Welcome to Living Lean and Green with Stacy D. The recipe I'm sharing with you tonight is cod with tomato thyme sauce and broccoli. This recipe is adapted from one originally posted by CookingManiac.com, and I just converted their recipe into a Optavia lean and green meal. We're going to start with 20 ounces of cod fillets that have been thawed. I cut my fillets in half to make it a little bit easier to handle. I have them sitting on paper towels and I've dried the top of them. It's very important for that fish to be dry before we start cooking it. I have in this little dish a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly ground pepper. That's 1 condiment and 1/2 a condiment. I also have 2 tablespoons of butter, which are going to be the 4 healthy fats needed for the 2 servings in this recipe to complete the meal. I have a clove of sliced fresh garlic. You can use a teaspoon of minced garlic if you prefer not to do it yourself, or if you want to just mince your clove, whichever you prefer. That equals 1 condiment. In this little container, I have a 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. That's a 1/2 a condiment. A 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder. That's another 1/2 of a condiment. And a teaspoon of dried thyme leaves. This could also be 1 tablespoon of fresh thyme leaves. Unfortunately, when I went out to our little herb garden to try to get some fresh thyme this evening, the weather has been a little too cold and it's already frozen off for the winter, so I had to get the dried. I really like thyme. It's a great seasoning to use with fish because it's a light seasoning. In this little bowl, I have a tablespoon of lemon juice, which is 1 1/2 condiments. I have a cup of petite diced tomatoes. That is equal to 2 greens. And then in this bowl, I have 2 cups of already steamed broccoli florets. These were just frozen florets that I steamed in the microwave, measured out 2 cups of those, and these are 4 additional greens. So this recipe is going to be 2 complete lean and green meals. I have my cast iron skillet preheated to low over here. You can use a non-stick skillet, a ceramic coated skillet, whichever you prefer. I just really like using my cast iron. I find that I'm able to use any oil that I would like in it and without getting any discoloration. So I've resorted to using this for almost everything. I'm going to spray it with a little bit of cooking spray. As you can see, it's pretty hot. It's already steaming. We're going to season one side of these fillets with 1/2 of this salt and pepper mixture. Let's get them all on here. And then we're going to flip this seasoned side into the pan and season the other side while this first side's cooking. These are going to only cook for 2 minutes on each side to start with. So we're going to put this one down. One thing I really like about cod is it's a very mild fish. It takes to a lot of different types of seasonings very well. You can buy wild-caught cod in almost every store in frozen fillets, so it's a very readily available fish as well. So now that that's started on that side, I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of the salt and pepper and sprinkle onto the other side of this fish, so that both sides get seasoned, and we're not leaving as much behind in the pan when we do it this way. And not in the pan, but then on the plate. A little bit more left in here. Now I like to put my salt and pepper together like this because then I only have to sprinkle both seasonings one time instead of going back and forth with 2. There's still just a little bit more. There we go. You want this pan to be usually medium-high for a non-stick pan, or on my cast iron I put it on low because it tends to absorb heat very quickly and hold heat quite a bit. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit so you can see the skillet. Excellent camera skills. There you go. So we can kind of see that fish. It's been cooking for about a minute now. I'm getting ready to flip it over. And while it's getting ready to flip over, I'm going to grab a clean plate because we're going to take it out of the pan once it has cooked on both sides for about 2 minutes. So it's only been about a minute. And I don't know about you, but this is the time of cooking that I hate waiting for things to get done. And I tend to start to flip it too soon, and then it sticks everywhere because it's not really ready to release from the pan. So I'm actually watching the clock so that I don't start too early and really mangle this fish up. It's very important that it be seared enough to release from the pan when you start to go underneath it so it doesn't stick and just tear apart. This is a pretty delicate fish once it's cooked. All right, so now our 2 minutes are up. I'm going to start here. See how that comes off and doesn't stick? Oh, that one stuck just a little bit. Maybe that wasn't the second one I put in the pan. There we go. That one flips over nicely. Good. That one flipped over nicely. Stuck a little. Doing okay. But don't worry, none of this fish is going to go to waste, even if it is a little bit stuck to the frying pan, because we're going to make our sauce in the same pan. There we go. That one over here. Oh, I didn't get that corner up. That's all right. That'll just get in the sauce later. All right, we're going to let these cook for 2 minutes here. And this is a recipe that comes together quite quickly. There's not a lot of prep on these ingredients, especially if you would use pre-minced garlic. The tomatoes came out of a can, so it's something that you can keep all of these things on hand in your pantry. You can use any vegetable that you would like in place of the broccoli. Asparagus would be really good in this recipe. Zucchini or summer squash would also be really good, even cauliflower, but I prefer something green just to give it a little bit more color. Okay, we got about another minute on these fillets in the pan before we're going to take them out and start on the sauce portion of this dish. You can hear that little light sizzle, see the steam coming up there. It's starting to smell good in here, even though it's just the cod cooking. Okay, so I'm going to start taking these out without losing a bunch. Oh, I lost a little tiny piece there. That's all right. We'll get that out. Good. It would probably help if I had a little bit more thin and flexible spatula. Unfortunately, I do not own a fish spatula, and they're the ones that are a little thinner and more flexible. If you start to go underneath it and it feels like it's starting to stick, just leave it for a minute longer, or two, a few seconds. I guess not really a minute, 10 or 15 more seconds, and it should release pretty easily for you. You can kind of feel that when you start to go underneath it. If it's sticking, you need to kind of give it another few seconds to finish cooking on that side. I don't know what it is with this piece, but it keeps sticking every time, so that's fine. All right, so we're just gonna put those over there. They're gonna finish cooking in the sauce in a little bit. Okay, and to this pan, I'm gonna add the 2 tablespoons of butter. You could use lower fat butter if you prefer, or margarine. Just use the equivalent to 4 healthy fats. I'm gonna add the entire clove of garlic in right now, and let that kind of saute and melt that into the garlic, kind of saute a little bit, cook a little bit in that butter before we add the other seasonings. Keeping this heat down pretty low. I don't want my butter to turn brown. I don't want it to burn, especially, and while it's melting, I'm kind of scraping up all those brown bits of fish so we get all that flavor into the sauce, just like you would do with any other kind of meat. Now when you're sauteing garlic like this, it only needs about 30 seconds, or when it's minced, a little bit longer when it's sliced like this. But you can tell when it's ready because it'll start to get a little bit brown looking, and you'll really start to smell the garlic. And I'm really starting to smell this right now. It's releasing all of its fragrance, and I've got all the bits of fish scraped up. Butter's almost melted. So now I'm going to add the other dry seasonings, and I'm going to add the lemon juice, and I'm going to add the tomatoes. All right, so we're going to get this all stirred together. And it's not going to take very long for this to start to come together and bubble. So we're just going to give it a stir to make sure all the ingredients are combined. Kind of spread this out flat, and then we're going to add our cod back in, and it's going to finish cooking in this sauce. Trying to be delicate with it so we don't lose any more. I don't want to just pick the plate up and dump it in there. So this is going to take about another 5 to 7 minutes to finish cooking. And that's because I cut these pieces in half. If these are bigger fillets, it might take a little bit longer. But you're going to kind of watch the side of the fish. And when it's completely opaque through the center, that's when you know it's finished. I'm going to add these juices all back into the sauce. A little bit of fish that's flaked off. That'll add that flavor right back in. Set this out of the way. So I'm going to let this cook, like I said, for about 5 to 7 minutes. And on the last 2 minutes of this cooking process, I'm going to add the broccoli in with the sauce and the cod. And we're not going to cover this. We don't want to steam this fish. We want it to kind of just nestle down and cook into this sauce. So kind of spread it in here, get it down in the juices just a little bit. That way it's going to absorb some of that flavor of the tomatoes. All right, so I'm going to pause the video while this finishes cooking. Okay, so the fish is done. I have added the broccoli back in for the last couple of minutes to get it preheated and up to temperature. So we're going to plate some of this. I'm going to start by removing the fish fillets very carefully and dividing them among my 2 plates. Trying to make sure everyone gets equal portions here. I guess I could use my scales to make sure of that, but I'm just not in the mood to dig that out over here today. Whoops, that was a little hot. I think I can do a pretty good job just by eyeballing it here. It's quite a bit of fish in this lean green. That's one of the things I like about having fish as a lean green. It's a lot of protein. You feel like you're having a nice hearty portion. One of my plates is going to look prettier than the other. Oh, you know what? I'm going to end up with odd numbered pieces. So this little piece is going to get cut in half. And there goes my pretty plate. It's alright. It's going to be covered up with sauce and broccoli here soon. So, all right. So we got the fish divided up. Now I'm going to kind of stir this up so my broccoli gets into that sauce a bit, get some of that flavor seasoning on it. And then we're going to divide this up onto the 2 plates. I think what I'm going to do, I think it'll look pretty. Well, these look really pretty on the red and green plates. It's a very Christmassy like dish here. Surrounding there. So here's what one plate's going to be looking like. Now, in our family, whoever is the one that divides the food up, the other person gets to choose their portion first. So it's very important that you do it as evenly as possible so that somebody, I think this one needs a little more tomato, doesn't get slighted. Because it might just be you. Alright, so this is a little bit messier than I would like it to be, but there's what the 2 plates look like. It reminds me a lot of cioppino, if you've ever had cioppino, which is an Italian fish stew that's served at Christmas time a lot. So it looks really nice and festive on our red and green plates, or on the red and green plates. I will urge you to give this recipe a try, and I'm gonna take a little bite. Get a little tomato and some broccoli and some cod all in that bite. Get a little bit of that lemon flavor, and with that cod, the cod's cooked perfectly. See how it's flaking apart? It's exactly what it's supposed to be like. Very warm, satisfying dish, and it's very pretty to look at. So I hope you guys give this one a try, and thank you for watching. Oh, you could not see the plate. Pardon me. There's the plate. Thank you so much for watching.